And 6.2, completing the square and the square root property. Both of these are strategies to try to determine the roots or the zeros of a quadratic equation. So 6.2 gives us two of them. The square root property is one, completing the square is the other. And completing the square actually just sets up an equation so that you can use the square root property. Anyways, let's get rid of that thing because it's confusing. First of all, the square root property, which I will show it to you like this. I'm going to just say square root property because that's quicker. Okay, now first of all, a little warning. In the book, it gives you this x squared equals c business. Elsewhere in the book, it gives you the quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And this is stupid because this c is not this c. It doesn't make any sense. It's just confusing. So this c has nothing to do with this c when you look at the book. Don't even look at the book. X squared equals d. I'm going to call it d because that's the next letter after c and it doesn't get confused with this stuff. So x squared equals d. If you have x squared equals d, you get the square root of d, and that is x. I know it's not that earth-shattering, but that's all it means. It means if you can get x squared by itself, or maybe it's x minus 3 squared or whatever it is that you've got squared by itself, then you just square root the other side, and that's your solution. Couple of things to remember though. If this value d here is positive, then there are going to be two roots. Give you an example. X squared equals 4. There are two roots. This is a positive number, so the roots could be x equals 2 and it could be x equals minus 2 because minus 2 squared is also 4. So anytime you have a positive number here, x squared equals some positive number, then you know there are going to be two roots, so always think plus or minus. Also, if x squared is less than 0, let's say it's minus 4, you will notice that the square root is impossible. You cannot have a square root of a negative number, so in math we abbreviate it like that. No, not like that. We abbreviate it like this. Okay, so negative numbers cannot have square roots, and therefore if you are trying to get a square root property like this, it's undefined. It just means that if we, it would be something like that. It would never touch x. So, oh yeah, the other thing is what if x squared equals 0? Well, if x squared equals 0, then x equals 0. That's all there is to it. And there's only the one root, namely 0. So three things to remember. Well, four things actually. For the square root property, if you're going to use the square root property, so to use it, you have to have something squared by itself. This has usually got x in it somewhere. It could be x squared by itself. It could be x plus 6 or whatever squared equals something. If that something is positive, then there are going to be two roots. If it is 0, then the solution is 0. And if it is negative, then x is undefined. Remember this. 2.